From the best Gothic movies of all time to the horror TV shows that we can't stop watching, the Gothic genre is one of the most fun to revisit. Gothic horror TV shows deserve more love, as they've inspired some of the best additions to a wide variety of narrative types. From traditional fantasy to the supernatural series that rely on folklore and the fear of what's hiding in the dark, the Gothic aesthetic and narrative tropes are a key piece of speculative fiction. Even for viewers who get scared watching Gothic shows, these projects are too good to miss. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, 2018 to 2020. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Sabrina lighting a match with Satan behind her. Kiernan Shipka leads the cast of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the much darker reimagining of the classic fantasy sitcom Sabrina the Teenage Witch. While many of the characters remain the same, in this take on the story, Sabrina's journey to accepting her identity as a fully fledged witch and her connection to the forces of darkness make this series far more terrifying. Though Chilling Adventures of Sabrina struggled to find the right balance between its everyday storylines about the pitfalls of growing up and Sabrina's literal descent into hell, this dichotomy is also part of what makes the series so memorable. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina paves the way for modern series that engage with the Gothic through a contemporary lens. The Fall of the House of Usher, 2023. Willa Fitzgerald, The Fall of the House of Usher 1. Mike Flanagan's Netflix shows have become a key piece of the streamer's Gothic, supernatural content, and it's easy to see why Flanagan keeps being tapped to bring these stories to life. In The Fall of the House of Usher, Flanagan draws inspiration from Edgar Allan Poe's short story of the same name and the classic Gothic writer's other works. Set against the backdrop of a wealthy family that's suddenly plagued by violent, horrific deaths, The Fall of the House of Usher is one of the most terrifying miniseries to watch on Netflix right now, as Flanagan pulls no punches when it comes to the shocking nature of the deaths. Squeamish fans should beware before descending into the neo-Gothic world of The Fall of the House of Usher. Lock and Key, 2020 to 2022. Laisla de Oliveira in Lock and Key. Netflix. The underrated fantasy TV show Lock and Key might only have 3 seasons, but this doesn't mean that audiences won't be taken on an unforgettable odyssey throughout the series' run. Based on the comic book series of the same name, Lock and Key follows the Locke family as they uncover the secrets of the keys hidden in their deceased father's family home, which is as Gothic and haunting as viewers would imagine. It's not always easy to translate a comic series to the screen, but Lock and Key managed to capture the mysticism and thrills of the graphic novels in its visual and narrative styles. Though it's a young adult series, Lock and Key grapples with serious themes. However, using the supernatural to work through grief and loss is something the Gothic genre does brilliantly. Interview with the Vampire, 2022 present. Louis, Jacob Anderson, Lestat, Sam Reed, and Claudia, Bailey Bass, stand on the balcony in Interview with the Vampire. One of the most famous modern vampire novels, and Rice's Interview with the Vampire, finally received a worthy screen adaptation in 2022 with the AMC TV show. Though the 1994 film will always be memorable thanks to its star-studded ensemble cast and memorable aesthetics, the series had the opportunity to expand upon the subtext of the book and establish its own world. By explicitly engaging with the romantic side of the relationship between Louis, Jacob Anderson, and Lestat, Sam Reed, and infusing discussions of race, gender, and class throughout different periods of history, Interview with the Vampire is elevated to new heights. Though there are many fantasy offerings on television today, Interview with the Vampire has distinguished itself with ease. Sleepy Hollow, 2013 to 2017. Sleepy Hollow. The short story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, serves as the inspiration for Sleepy Hollow, the supernatural crime show with plenty of Gothic twists. Tom Mison stars as Ichabod Crane, with Nicole Bahari co-starring as Abby Mills, a modern member of the sheriff's department who works alongside Crane when he wakes up in the 21st century after dying in the 1700s. Legends of the Headless Horseman are well known within Gothic literature and ghost stories, and Sleepy Hollow does a good job of balancing the rich lore the story draws from and the more contemporary mystery and crime elements. However, it's the first few seasons when Ichabod is still piecing together what happened to him and his connection to the supernatural that makes the series so fun. Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, 2022. Guillermo del Toro Cabinet of Curiosities. Liza Johnston as Keziah episode Dreams in the Witch House. The filmmaker Guillermo del Toro is renowned for his dark fantasy films and Gothic sensibilities, and these are on full display in the miniseries he made for Netflix, Cabinet of Curiosities. Each episode of the 8-part series brings to life a classic work of Gothic fiction or a new story written for the series that adheres to the style of the genre, with brilliantly crafted monsters and demons in each narrative. It's easy to single out Del Toro's commitment to the visual language of his work as one of the best parts of the show, but the plots and characters are just as vivid and compelling. touching upon grief, loss, and many of the darker emotions that the Gothic genre makes it easier to grapple with. Cabinet of Curiosities is a memorable work of art. The Haunting of Bly Manor, 2020. Teenia Miller as Hannah grows with the children in The Haunting of Bly Manor. Another one of Flanagan's horror miniseries, housed by Netflix, The Haunting of Bly Manor, features the many familiar faces of actors that the filmmaker taps to lead his Gothic tragedies. However, The Haunting of Bly Manor stands out because of its deeply empathetic and emotional truths, and the romantic angle that makes the series so much more raw, and ultimately all the more devastating. Though Flanagan never shies away from heartbreaking endings and upsetting moments, The Haunting of Bly Manor manages to make these scenes hit even harder by showing the audience moments of love and light. This is what makes The Haunting of Bly Manor such a perfect addition to the Gothic genre, and why Flanagan keeps hitting it out of the park with his TV series.